Labour leader Jacinda Ardern has also been at Parliament today. She says she will meet with senior Labour MPs tomorrow to decide who will be on the party's negotiating team. Later in the program, we'll talk to Jim Bolger, who's got some advice, less advice for Jacinda Ardern, it has to be said, than he has for Bill English. Ms Ardern, are you there on the phone now, joining us live from Welly?
I am, and I can't imagine why Jim wouldn't want to share with me.
I guess one of the things he said, and I think this applies to both you and Bill English, is just to quote the old poster, keep calm and carry on. In other words, it will take the time it takes. And I have a sense that both you and Bill English absolutely understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to balance the need for us to resolve this political situation as promptly as we can, but also at the same time make sure we deal with it with the care and responsibility that we should for the magnitude of the decision. And so I think probably both of us are mindful of that. We're probably both also mindful that we are operating in an environment where the final vote hasn't come in, 380,000 plus votes. And so making sure that we probably both are running a bit of a tandem process, do the work, but also make sure that we don't go too far before actually the votes are tallied.
I just want to refer briefly back to Demels's piece. 32 new MPs, 17 of them were Labour MPs. You arrived in 2008, recently enough to remember the kind of wonder that you first entered Parliament with. What was it like to see those newbies arrive today?
I was actually reflecting on that today because this is a bigger cohort than when I came in, and so exceptional to see that we're currently where we are now, but at the same time, of all the parties, we've brought in that largest group, and to see, of course, their enthusiasm and their excitement as they should feel, and as we should all still feel, because the privilege of being one of 120 people that's able to represent your community in Parliament is a privilege. So I really drew from that. We had a session with them today, and it was fantastic to feel that enthusiasm and that excitement from them all at making it here.
7 Maori electorates, and I want to talk about those in a sec, but of course it all becomes much more meaningful to be an MP in government rather than in opposition. And that brings us back to our starting point, and that is, how do you win the coalition partners you need? Now, obviously you have the Greens. How do you win Winston Peters? Who are you looking at for your negotiating team? And will you refer back to the expertise of people who've worked with them before? Helen Clark, Michael Cullen, those sorts of people?
Oh, look, and regardless of whether they're sitting around a table or not, I do draw from the experience and expertise of others. I remember, of course, what it was like to be involved in a coalition government. I worked in Helen Clark's office at the time in 2005. We were in that position. So I do draw from that advice. I will, though, however, create a team of our some senior MPs, potentially then with the assistance of a few staff around that. But that team, I do want to go through a process of sitting down with my front bench tomorrow, and also with our party leadership to make sure we then solidify who it is. But as I say, wider reference group, there's no reason why you don't want to draw on that wider expertise, even if they aren't sitting in the room.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Cuisinart equation. Now, everyone keeps pointing out that if you add New Zealand First, the Greens and Labour together, you do just, excluding the special votes that have yet to come in, get enough MPs to form a government. But who were New Zealand First supporters voting for? Now, people say, yes, they were voting against the government, but if they'd wanted to vote for Labour, surely they would have done so.
Yeah, and you do, and we've had this conversation before about other parties, when there's been surveys of those parties around who it is that they would expect the party they voted for to go into coalition. You sometimes get a sense then of where their support lies. But actually, that's not for me to determine. That's rightly a decision for that party leadership. And so they know that the issues that they campaigned hard on and the things that their supporters want to see them deliver on. And it's up to them to then go into a room and work through who best delivers on those issues for them. Equally, it's incumbent on us to make sure that we maintain the position of the people who voted for us and what they cared most about. So that's for each of us to take to the table and work through. All I know is, of course, you do have a sense of responsibility that if there is a mandate from New Zealanders in the way that they voted, and if they voted against the status quo as it stood was primarily a national government, then it's incumbent on us to work through the ability to form a stable, credible government. That's when people cast a vote, that's the expectation, and that process we're going through now.
Let's look at those 7 Maori seats. Quite an extraordinary situation that Labour has them all. Now, New Zealand First said we want a referendum on getting rid of the Maori seats. You are saying absolutely not for negotiation, not going to happen, full stop.
We've always said that it's for Māori to decide their representation.
And you're not resiling from that? Yeah, absolutely.
Not resigning from that.
Can I ask you, what is your sense of responsibility to Māori, given that all 7 Māori is significant? What will that mean?
Yeah, and that's actually something that I mentioned in my conversation, my introductory comments with our new MPs, that there is a real sense of obligation there. We had, excellent candidates who campaigned hard in those seats on a platform of the things that Labour campaigned hard on, to lift Māori home ownership, to make sure that we had employment opportunities for rangatahi, for young Māori, to improve the health statistics amongst Māori. Those are all issues that we campaigned hard on. Now, look, of course, if you're in government, you're in a position to do something about that, but I will consistently make sure we do everything we can to push those gains regardless of the position we find ourselves in.
Jacinda Ardern joining us live from Wellington. Thank you very much indeed for your time.